This is not fake. This is not fake news. This is not a test. Antoine, will you please join me on stage? Thank you.
All right, thank you. But I think just before moving on, I think what you've shared, Apollo, is very interesting, and I want to relate with what Rick was saying this morning. He was saying quality engineering, everybody is accountable for quality, right? And here, the thing is, if you implement a value stream discussion, it means that you could break the silos between the team. And everybody will be aligned with that, because ultimately, the business value is what you want to reach. And usually in testing, we are all responsible for part of it: performance testing, integrations testing, functional testing. And suddenly, value stream, you make people talk about, well, overall, what is the end goal, right? And this is why also it's a cultural change as well. And we actually have one of our partners, Micro Focus, who actually launched Value Edge, one of their tools focused on that specific topic. I think it was a few months ago, so you can also talk to them. I'm just making the link. All right. Okay. What's my role? So I have an amazing role. I lead technology for quality engineering and testing as part of Sogeti. And yes, you can hear my French-glish, as my friend Michael reminds me all the time. So I'm based out of France, but I cover technology among all the 14 countries where Sogeti is based. So let's talk today a little bit about an innovative topic. I hope you're ready, because you're going to spend half an hour with me, so it better be interesting. All right, first, here's a discussion that we often get with our customers, and I talked with Morten this morning. It's a little bit, let's go back in the past. So, well, I was born in 1977, so I surely do not remember waterfall, well, the early stage of waterfall. But for those older than you remember that we all start with manual testing. And then there were the early stages of automation testing, and I was lucky enough to join Mercury Interactive, in the 2000s. Anybody remember Mercury Interactive? Yes? A few of you? Okay, all right, so I'm not too old either. And then afterwards, we had the starts of Agile, and we see additional automation frameworks that came on board. And yes, thankfully, we had Selenium, open source, a lot of different tools that contributed to the advancement of automation testing. And then we figured out, this is probably not enough just to do automation testing, and then we went back to say, okay, we need to integrate automation testing effort with ideas, with development. This is why we had continuous testing and CI/CDs for the last, arguably for the last 10 years. But as you can see here, we have interesting graphs. What's happening at the same time is that the pace of technology complexity has increased massively. We've talked about it earlier today. We have multiple components, APIs. We have the volume of data has exploded. At the same time, also, I think it was mentioned a little bit this morning, the concept of quality in terms of user experience has also augmented. Now it's not about the three core questions: does it work? Does it function? Does it scale? Is it secure? But is it a pleasant experience? Do I like it? Or do I trust also the app I'm going to use? And so this whole paradigm of changes makes that our, let's say, work as a quality engineer is getting more complex, much more complex. And at the same time, we have transformed into Agile, so we have to comply automation testing and time box it and to comply with 2-week sprint. And then at the same time, we have a number of combinations and platforms that we have to test against, right? So if we say, okay, I'm going to change a submit button from left to right, from green to yellow, by the way, I will not call it submit anymore, I want to call it okay. And then potentially I have to update a lot of different scripts. So that's why, as an industry, we start investigating this, let's say, worrying word for some of us, which is artificial intelligence. Could AI actually assist us with solving some of the issues we have with automation testing? And could we actually go a bit much further? arguably, the four issues that we are seeing. Backlog design. Okay, we have sometimes the requirements that we are setting are probably defined, over-defined, resulting into over-testing or under-testing, resulting in the same sort of activities either we automate too much or we under-test, which in the end have the same sort of bad result on quality. Scripting time as well, okay? We know this has evolved with low-code, no-code, and we have an interesting session right after this one. We have to comply with in-sprint changes, and the awful word here, the fourth one here that I don't want to see here is the maintenance time. You know, I need to spend so much time on maintenance, it just kills the entire purpose of automation testing. So, yes, that's how we're doing it today. What if this could be something else that we could investigate?
Ever since then, I felt that computers were this sort of magical device that could extend the power of your mind.
Virtual environments and games. We think they're the perfect platform for developing and testing AI algorithms. Games are very convenient in that a lot of them have scores, so it's very easy to measure incremental progress. So I'm going to show you a few videos of the agent system, the AI. So let's start off with Breakout. So here you control the bat and ball, and you're trying to break through this rainbow-colored wall. The agent system has to learn everything for itself, just from the raw pixels. It doesn't know what it's controlling. It doesn't even know what the object of the game is. Now, at the beginning, after 100 games, you can see the agent is not very good. It's missing the ball most of the time, but it's starting to get the hang of the idea that the bat should go towards the ball. Now, after 300 games, it's about as good as any human can play this, and pretty much gets the ball back every time. We thought, well, that's pretty cool, but we left the system playing for another 200 games. And it did this amazing thing. It found the optimal strategy was to dig a tunnel around the side and put the ball around the back of the wall. The researchers working on this are amazing AI developers, but they're not so good at Breakout. And they didn't know about that strategy, so they learned something from their own system, which is pretty funny and quite instructive, I think, about the potential for general AI. So for us, what's the next step now? Go is the most complex game pretty much ever devised by man. Beating a professional player at Go is a long-standing grand challenge of AI research.
So this is an extract from the documentary about AlphaGo, which is available for free on YouTube. And the idea is that obviously there's this platform, AlphaGo, who actually learned the game of Go by itself and bet Lee Sedol, the grand worldwide champion, right? And this is actually a stunning documentary. It's just amazing the things we can learn from that. And what if this concept could be applied to us, to our industry, to what we're doing today? And where we could have such a system that would actually be exposed to our system, to our app on the test, and augment what we do. And I insist on this word. It's about augmenting what we do, not replacing us. And essentially what the requirement would be for this, it would be, well, no coding, right? I don't want to be scripting anymore, because again, I really want to focus on the testing part of it, increase coverage as much as I can. No more manual testing, this is again arguably, but also no more recording. So some of the hard work that we're doing here could actually be not replaced, but done by a machine much faster than us. So this is again a design here, so you don't have to take it as a single source of trust. But let's assume you have in this big circle all the possible test cases, right? And there's an infinite number of them, especially with mobile testing and all the different combinations that you have to validate. And then this is actually a design, just to prove the point, right? And then usually what we do is we script some test cases that are given to us, which are representative of a certain number of all the possible test cases. And they vary, right? But the reality behind it is that we use our intuition as human beings to design the test cases, which are sometimes not entirely representative of what is actually happening. And it takes time. What if we actually could augment our work with having the machine as well understand, interpret, and interact with the system as an army of human beings would do. But not replacing the work that we can do in automation testing, augmenting the work that we're doing, because there are a lot of different areas in the system that are still gray areas, even often to the best automation teams out there. So this is really the idea, is that the promise of such a platform could augment what we're doing today. So this is how things would work, potentially. So first is this AI, as AlphaGo, will require a training. It's not like I deploy it, I give the link to the URL to my system, and I click and it does, and then I go away, I go have lunch or beer, and I go back and I understand the quality. Absolutely not. This AI would actually need to be trained, as with Ada, and I'm sorry because I don't speak Norwegian or Swedish, so I didn't get a word of what my colleague was saying, but Ada works the same. It needs to be trained before that. And this AI platform would need to get the same. It needs to understand when not to interact with a logout button, because afterwards there's no value out of it. Understand the business logic. What about the data? So it is what we would need to make a blueprint of an application, right? And this blueprint would be a graphical representation of all the user flows that exist in a system to augment and to expand the coverage as far as possible. And then the idea is that after each build, as there's new objects and new functionalities coming up in the product, we would actually update the blueprint on a sprint at a sprint level, right, automatically. And the idea is to augment what we do. It does not mean that the actual recording of business processes and turning them into automated scripts goes away. Absolutely not, because as human beings, we still want to validate the worthy business processes, but we will need to expand and beat, let's say, manual testing. And beyond that, and you can see also on the screen here, we will need to tell the platform what to do, what not to do, what are the things that you should actually be dropping in the testing, because they don't actually bring a value at all. So here's a technology that's brought by one of our partners, and it's a bit of a demo. And this company has been there since 2017. And here what you can see is the, obviously, a recorded video. And we go on testing an application. So I will have to maybe make a pause here. No, the pause doesn't work. OK, all right, try to go here. Right. So what are we going to do here? So we have to enter the URL of an application here. And you can see here, this is the main panel with all the different metrics. And this is very important that we have an eye on that specific figure, right? And the idea, obviously, we are going to start a blueprint. We are going to link this AI platform to the app on the test, which is here a demo site. So here, the maximum number of browsers here, right, are going to be too fast. The maximum number of browsers that we saw before is the number of AI instances that are going to interact with our application, right? And we could actually, so here this was set on 15 actually, but we can have 50 AI instances or 500 instances. The more we have, the more thorough the blueprint as these graphical representations will be. So we give them the execution a name, okay? Sometimes it could be too slow for my liking, but here it is. And here, we're actually starting the various actions here. So what is happening in the background, and you'll see it in a few seconds, the AI has actually triggered multiple instances, and okay, and you can see here the number of here instances here, right? And each instance is actually assessing a user journey, a user flow, right? And then once a user flow is complete, it gives the hands to another AI for the AI to actually go deeper. So you end up, and I will try to pause 1 second here, we end up within a few seconds with the entire mapping of the various user journey possible. first find at the first training. However, and you'll see some areas here, around that here, are very well defined because the AI was able to navigate through the user flows here. However, there are some user flows here where there's been an issue because there's an object that the AI doesn't understand and does not know what to do. And this is why, again, it's not a click on a button and a magic thing. We need to assist the AI, get a much better understanding of the complexity and the depth of the system here. And again, the beauty is that this can be done within seconds, right? But the work behind it that we have in human beings can actually be deeper. So we are able to get that map very quickly, to get recorded videos and snapshots, and we can, assess functional, the integration as well. And here, the video is just putting the side on a specific thing that there's an anomaly in the system. And the thing is, we are able to go much quickly and much more in depth than before, right? What we can do as well is actually work back from the logs and traces to actually understand and remodel the entire user journey behind it. So I'll go a little bit more in. I'll go. So it's a new, for us, it's a new platform. We've started to deploy it at one of our customers in Europe, and I'm not able to share more because that's a government body. What we've done, this customer was initially using Selenium only because free, open source, and then we started to deploy it. And we know this is not magic. And here, so we had in automation labors for almost 1,500 test cases. This was the labor that we had here. So 99 days for UI test cases. And we had 40 days in labor to address all these UI cases. But the thing is, it's not a real apple-to-apple comparison because we were able to go much deeper than the Selenium scripts were able to do in the past. And the thing is, this is just for the pilot, meaning as you go through all the various sprints, this number, the ratio, will actually be crushing Selenium. And then execution time as well, and I'm not talking about self-healing mechanism behind it, so you don't have to worry about designing the test cases. You don't have to worry about maintaining the test cases because the machine is doing it. However, and this is why I'm insisting here, our work does not go away. What the machine is doing is really go much more in depth that we are able to do in a much faster pace. So the summary here, I realize I went pretty fast. The summary is that the machine can actually go much more in depth and can virtually assess, identify anomalies much faster and much deeper than any human. Even a team of 50 people could not actually achieve the same ROI. And the efficiency and productivity of regression testing is unbeatable, right? So this is really worth investigating. So we can, if some of you are interested to say, okay, we would love to get a pilot here around that. We're actually starting another pilot with one of our customers, and I should be in the discussion now, but I'm with you now, around this technical workshop. So again, it's not for everybody because, it requires a bit of level of maturity. But if you think that you might be interested in saying, okay, I want to understand if autonomous testing, that platform applies to us, I'm available, okay? And Tina as well, and we can organize that.
Everybody say 911.
There are so many possible application domains where creativity in a different dimension to what humans could do could be immensely valuable to us. And I'd just love to have more of those moments where we look back and say, yeah, that was just like Move 37. Something beautiful occurred there.
At least in a broad sense, Move 37 begat Move 78, begat a new attitude, at least, a new way of seeing the game. He improved through this machine. His humanness was expanded after playing this inanimate creation. And the hope is that that machine, and in particular the technologies behind it, can have the same effect with all of us.
I remember hearing a talk by Kasparov, who says that a good human plus a machine is the best
combination. And that's what I want to believe for us. All right, I go now to a totally different topic, which is the focus of the day, sustainability, but maybe a little bit more from a technical angle. So I'm not sure if you had these figures earlier. There's 6% growth year over year in terms of the impact IT had on the environment. And I would say, okay, is it quite unstoppable because we cannot stop consuming IT services? So we're seeing worldwide, let's say, 4 initiatives, IT for Green, Human for IT, Green for IT, and really Green for IT is what I want to talk about today, is really how we can reduce the impact of digital technology and the impact of our system, the app we are testing together, and IT for Human. I think it's time we actually took a little bit more responsibility because we have a lot of good discussion. There's a bit of eco-anxiety around that specific topic. And often we talking too much about sustainability from a data center perspective, but us as well in quality engineering and testing, we can impact that. But then we need to say, well, yeah, but how? What should I be measuring? And that's the purpose of that talk. I want to have a more holistic view in terms of what makes an app or system sustainable. And yes, we're going to talk about eco-design and innovation. So there are essentially, let's say, 2 questions that we usually are addressing here with that specific topic. The first one is, as with security, as with performance, as with integration testing, I want to measure the level of sustainability of my app. I want to test for sustainability. Does anyone know how to do that today? I'm asking you. How to test for sustainability, what to look for. Well, we had a few chat today, right, around that topic. But when it comes to actually technically do it, where should we be starting? What to validate, what to assess, what to measure, what is good, what should I be differently? And that is where I think we need to be better at. And the second question, which I will not talk about today, but still interesting, is the level of sustainability of our quality engineering and testing activities. And we talk about test environment, test data. Maybe I'm oversizing my test data set, and I should probably not doing that. As an example, how much duplicate do I have in my test asset, in my Jira, whatever? Because everything will also have an impact on automation testing and the rest. Okay? So this is, first is the app on the test, and the second thing is the methodology. So here I'll talk a little bit more about sustainability. So again, I will not reinvent what I've been sharing earlier. Okay, so I was aligned with what Rick was saying this morning: environment, social, and economy. All right. So tip of the iceberg, what we are actually measuring, and sometimes we are keeping said, okay, this is a well-designed site, but the actual measurement of the technical metrics that we report back on sustainability are a little bit unclear. And here, this is, I guess you're aware of Award, which is an agency that awards actually the best design websites. Those are amazing, very well pretty sites, but usually not really sober. And as I was researching it, I found very interesting, concerning aspects of sustainability. This website actually, however beautiful it might be, generates a huge number of requests as soon as you open it. And as soon as you accept cookies, you generate 50 different calls on different APIs. And even the chat here box here appears straight away, consuming probably unnecessary resources. I should probably have it a little bit later. So a lot of different sites, and Rick was sharing an example this morning, actually have very bad mechanism in the back, right? But this requires actually measurement, technical measurement, not just what we can find on web page test, on those free apps that we can see here. Measurement on the front-end level. And why am I talking about front-end today? there are recent studies that show if you have the end-to-end view, front-end mobile devices, network, and data centers, over 70% of the environmental impact of a system occurs on the front end, not on the back end. So it's not the Pareto rule, but 70-30, and almost zero on the network side. So we started actually with a few customers, with one of our partners called Green Spectre, to have a few use cases. So I'll take an example here, the second one here. This is actually a very interesting use case where, for the French army, and they were struggling with one of their applications that were draining too much battery. And when you are on the field, if you can't use the device anymore because the battery is drained, then you can't actually be successful, effective, right? So here it was a very interesting use case where we actually measured at the technical level by including some SDK or libraries, understand what was actually impacting the battery, whether it was the brightness, whether it was different calls, too many requests to the back end. And this is actually what I call we need to get much deeper, right? And I go back to what Apollo was saying, there could be also brand reputations, impact on performance, which are traditional quality impact that we have to measure. So again, end-to-end, I briefly talked about it. You have users, network, multi-geo, like CDNs, configuration, customizations, architecture, dependencies, so all about the back end. And well, given what I was saying earlier, I focused a little bit more about the front end. But we know that in terms of sustainability, what we will be able to measure as an industry, we come late, because we know the vast majority of the impact on the environment is actually the extraction of the raw data to actually manufacture the devices. So we know that the impact that we have as an industry will not probably be huge, but I think we have our say. We need to do something around usage. So this is where now, and I know it's also, I need to talk to you as sustainability individual, right? So I'm going to give you maybe a bit too much, all right? So I'm sorry about that. So this is the usual, let's say, life cycle, okay? It's a bit waterfall, but forget about it, where we start from test management, code, unit testing, UI, performance, and the rest, okay, and ops. Okay, so now, what should we be doing? What should we be validating from a sustainability perspective? So first, and I have these three different things here that Rick talked about this morning: environment, social, economic. So energy efficiency. It will be easy for me to measure the impact of energy, meaning carbon, water, energy, more on the production side. And potentially, I could also measure it in my test environment. That might be something that we could potentially do. And also assess a few things at the resource level. There's things that we can learn from lean management is the level of waste, right? And yes, we are going to measure things, but we can also measure the right usage of an architecture, the right sizing of an architecture. So there are some social elements, and we talked a little bit about earlier, but now I just want to go a little bit more in depth. What are the aspects that I want to measure? And we talked about resilience, and you talked, Apollo, about this as well, reliability, resilience. Those aspects also are fully part of sustainability because they bring an impact to human beings, to us. And then in usability, and I know it's very small here, it doesn't really matter. The point is, in usability, we need to assess accessibility. And yes, accessibility as a whole is a part of sustainability that we have to measure. And there's WCSG requirements at the worldwide level, and each country, almost all countries, have accessibility requirements that can be automatically assessed. And yes, there's no sustainability without proper quality. So the work we're doing today matters for sustainability, for sure. But then one of the things that we often forget is that as quality engineers, we are responsible for the short-term validations of quality. Does it work? Is it secure? Does it scale? Does it perform? However, the long-term consequences of an app also needs to be assessed. And that's what I called perdurability, will the system perdure over time? And here you have maintainability, portability, which are more on the code level. And sometimes all these aspects are outside the scope of testing. So, and I know this is a lot, but when we talk about the actual technical measurement of sustainability, you can see straight away that we're not talking about just CO2 or water consumptions. We're talking about different aspects. And yes, our responsibility lies here. However, we need to involve developers inside, because otherwise we'll have only half of the truth. So I'm over time. I had so much to share with you here today, but the point is, I can finish by saying how to get started. So we are actually working with our partners to provide an audit. So some companies are very interesting, said, okay, well, my CTO is asking me about measuring sustainability for my apps. How to get started, what to do. So we can bring what I've shared with you today, but also we can do also starting on the mobile side by helping you perform an audit, which is just the very start to give an awareness of where you are. Okay, so this is a very concrete action. Over to you, Celine. I'm available for, if you want to have further discussion on that topic. Thank you.
Thank you.